Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I can tell by your conversation you're excited to be here in Mechanical Engineering 238. Advanced Bridge Design. That's not what you're here for? Okay, my name is Steve Wood, and I'll be the instructor for this class, Econ 181, Environmental Economics 181, International Trade. So hopefully that's what you're here for. As you can see, we have a fairly full room. There are some empty chairs. I'm assuming they're not broken. Never know these days in the budget crisis, but one of the floors equally comfortable. So this is international trade. And just to get started, I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about what the information that's in the syllabus. So I emailed the syllabus out to you and asked you to take a look at it so we can go through this information pretty quickly, see if you have any questions. We have a good group of GSIs, all of whom are PhD students in economics working in advanced international trade theory. So everything that I don't know about international trade theory, they do. So they'll be able to teach you, I'm sure, a lot more than what I will be able to. For your first discussion section, except for those of you who have discussion section right after class. So you've got until next Thursday. I would ask you to write just a short, this could be done on a 3x5 card or a 4x6 or a sheet of paper, just a little presentation, your name. If you've got a picture, that would be very helpful. Your year, your major, why you're taking this class, and any other information that you think might be valuable for your GSI. This will help them to get to know you a little bit better, be able to put a name with a face in discussion section. Obviously, we have a very large class. Their discussion sections will be much more informal. And this will hopefully be able to create more of an informal attitude there. Our textbook for the course is International Trade, or International Economics Theory and Policy. There is a custom edition, which is what I ordered for the bookstore. If you don't want to buy this one, you can get either the 8th edition or the 7th edition, mostly in hardback, unless you can find an international edition. This custom edition is only the first 11 chapters of the hardback book. So let me just add, if you are going to take 182, then you probably want to get the hardback edition, because 182 uses the second half of the textbook. This is just the first half. So if you're going to take 181, which is what we're here for, but not 182, you want to get the soft cover. There will be a resale market. I will be using this again in the future, so don't worry about that. You can mark it up. It's exactly the same as what's in the textbook. Exactly the same, except for the price in the missing chapters at the back. So that's what we're looking at. Again, if you do want to get a used book, hard copy book, either the 7th or the 8th edition will work. All of the assignments in the syllabus, however, are referenced or keyed to the 8th edition. There are some differences between the 7th and the 8th, so you might want to make sure you know what you're looking at. One of the things that you will want to get is a set of colored pens and or pencils. Those little 4-color clicky pens that they have down at the bookstore that are really annoying when everybody's clicking them to change the colors work just fine. But one of the things that you know in economics, we draw lots of diagrams and graphs and we shift curves, and it's very helpful if when you're shifting curves it actually is in a different color. In fact, you will be required on problem sets and exams to use different colors, so you'll want to do that. My office hours 2:15 to 3:30 and 5:20, so upstairs. I'm also available by appointment, so I can come a little bit early. I can stay a little bit late. I am also teaching a class on Mondays and Wednesdays. I have no office hours on Mondays and Wednesdays, but I do have a class in the middle of the day, so I can meet you either before that class or afterwards, but by appointment. So if you need to see me to make an appointment, you can send me an email, or you can just talk to me after class and we can arrange something. My email address is swood@haas, not econ, haas.berkeley.edu. So Haas is my home department, so they just let me visit down here and slum out in the basement. So I do have an email policy, so let me just state that. I will respond to all emails within 48 hours of receipt, generally faster than that, but I will guarantee 48 hours of receipt, except on the weekends. My weekend starts at noon on Friday and ends at 6 a.m. Monday morning. So if you send me something Friday afternoon, you're not going to get a response from me until Monday, okay? Now, your first point of contact for any questions should actually be your GSI, right? There's 240 of you in this class, one of me. There's going to be 60 of you for each GSI. I'm also teaching another class with 100 students in it, so if you do send me an email, if you have something that I need to know about, if you would put Econ 181 or 181 in the subject line, just so I know which class we're talking about, that would be quite helpful as well. So as you know, this is a class in international trade. We're going to talk about both theory of international trade as well as policies. So we're going to be doing a couple of things, developing models to explain the patterns of trade, including who wins, who loses, why we like it, why we don't like it. We're also going to be looking at trade policy, the types of things that governments can do to influence the pattern of trade, why they would do certain things, who wins, who loses, all of those types of things. So the models we'll develop will not be all that complicated relative to what you've seen in some of your other economics classes, but they will be used to address particular international trade issues. For attendance, your very first discussion section, you must be there. So if you aren't, and you don't have an excused absence from me, and so far I've only excused one person, you will be dropped from the class to make room for somebody on the wait list. We will not take attendance beyond your first discussion section, nor in class. Yes?
You said not to switch discussion sections until afterwards.
Right.
Prior to reading that email, I switched discussion sections.
Okay, are you registered in the... Oh, as long as the GSI who's conducting your discussion sections has your name on the list, and the one who you were in doesn't have your name on the list, everything will be cool. Okay. Now, of course, if they printed their list 3 days ago, that might be an issue, but it should be okay. Okay, so it shouldn't be a problem. So I can't add you to this class. Now, I don't have anything to do with attendance, so please don't ask me. But here's what I know from earlier today. The class size was increased from 180 to 240 students. So some of you who may be on the wait list are probably only on the wait list because we're working around discussion sections rather than the class itself. So of those 240 seats, only 197 people are actually registered. There are 44 people officially on the wait list. Well, if you do the arithmetic, you can find 240 minus 197 sounds like 43, and there's 44 people on the wait list. So I'm pretty sure the wait list is going to clear, because I'm sure I will scare at least one person out of the class before the ad period ends. Okay? If you have enrollment issues, please don't ask me. Ask Juan Carlos. He's at headgsi at berkeley.edu. He handles all of that stuff. If you send me an email, all I'm going to do is forward it to him. 48 hours later, weekend not included, starting at noon on Friday. BSpace is where everything will get posted. I don't do paper except for exams. So everything will be posted on BSpace, so that's what you're going to want to check. The class is going to be podcast, and they're doing screenshots. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that just means that they're also taking a picture of the screen. So anything that appears on the screen, including my scribbles from my laptop, will also show up on those screenshots. So you can see the whole thing and hear the whole thing if for some reason you're not here. We'll be very sad that you won't be here, but you still have that opportunity to go back and look at it. So you can register at the webcast. It's all free, so don't get worried about that. Okay, so a couple things. I generally try and start class on time. Now, I know some of you are coming from other parts on campus and can't necessarily be here right at 3:40. So if you do come in late, I just ask you to come in as quietly as possible, both allowing for the doors to open and close, as well as finding some place to sit. If you have a question or there's some burning issue that you just definitely need to talk about, like how the Bears really beat up on somebody over the weekend, or no personal issues, but please bring it up in class so we can all enjoy the discussion. We'll find with 240 people, if we've got more than one or two people talking at a time, it gets very, very disruptive. I'm a stickler for cell phones, so if a cell phone does ring, we will stop class. And well, you should answer your cell phone, right? It would be only the polite thing to do. And we would love to hear at least one side of the conversation, but if you have a speaker, we could even enjoy both sides of the conversation. Okay? So what I'm going to do, at least what I see my responsibilities, you may see them differently, is I should be coming class prepared to teach, respond to and encourage your questions, although again, as you know, in very large classes, we don't do a lot of question and answers. Make up some really nasty problem sets and exams. They're totally appropriate or inappropriate to the context. Make sure that the GSIs know how to grade them, and hopefully generate some enthusiasm for economics in general and international trade in particular. What I expect of you is to come to class prepared to learn, which means that you probably want to read the material before you come to class. So some of the material that we go over will seem very, very simple to you. As you may or may not know, international trade theory is basically applied microeconomics. So if you did really well in microeconomics and you remember everything that you learned in microeconomics, then perhaps you don't necessarily need to have read everything in depth. But I would ask you to start reading the material at least lightly before you come to class. I'm not going to go through everything that's in the textbook. I'm going to assume that you know a bunch of stuff from micro. So you might want to take a look at that and reference back to your micro textbook if you don't remember some of those things, so that at least when you come here, you're not hearing it for the first time. And so that, I think, will be very helpful. I strongly encourage you to go to discussion sections. As I said, we've got a good group of GSIs who know this material, and they will be able to answer more than all the questions that you will have, especially about the parts that I mess up on. And believe me, I will mess up on things. We will have 6 problem sets, which I will expect you to complete and turn in on time. We will have 3 exams, which I will expect you to do exceedingly well on. And I also hope that you will have some fun doing all of this. Let me talk a little bit about grades and grading. I hate to do this, but unfortunately, the university actually requires me to assign you a grade at the end of the semester. So we thought we ought to have some basis for that letter grade that I have to give you, other than my just making it up. So the 4 grading assignments are going to be our problem sets and 3 exams. The problem sets themselves, as I said, there are going to be 6 of those. They will have a weight of 25%. We will only be counting your 5 highest problem sets. So you can do really well in the first 5 and not turn in the 6th one. That could be a strategy. And we'll have 3 exams, each worth 25%. These are the dates of our exams: October 5th, November 2nd, and December 17th. The GSIs will be grading them. So one of the things I always like to tell students, we don't know what you actually know. We can only assess what you know by what you put down on your paper. So it's what you actually wrote, not what you meant to write, or I just didn't know how to say it, or I really meant to make that line steeper, not flatter. Okay? So those are all errors. So we need to look at what you actually put down. So you want to be very, very careful on that. On the problem sets themselves, I will post. I haven't done it yet because I haven't written it yet. I will be posting the problem sets on BSpace. They will be posted in Word in a template, and I'm expecting you to complete the problem set on that template. So when they're due, and the due date will be on the problem sets, they'll be due at the beginning of the class, on Tuesday, generally on Tuesday, I think always on Tuesdays, so I can perfectly ruin your weekend with a really nasty problem set question, unless we're playing SC or UCLA. And of course, we need things like your name and SID and your GSI, and by the way, you need to word process your written answers. This is to help with grading. Turnaround time, graphs and equations can be done by hand. So the beginning of the class is the first 10 minutes. So at 11 minutes, we turn off the clock. We've taken all the problem sets. Don't come in at 12 minutes after and say, here's my problem set. Or don't try to email it to us or fax it to us or those types of things. If you can't be here, find a friend to bring it, or roommate, or an enemy, or whomever. You can work with classmates in terms of working on the problem sets to figure out how to solve the problem, to make sure you've done any calculations correctly, to figure out, am I really answering this in the right way? But you need to sit down and write your own answer. So I've had some problems with this in the past. Last semester, in a class of 420, 19 students were penalized for cheating on problem sets. One student actually had the audacity to turn in a problem set that had my answers, word for word, in his problem set. We noticed that. His answers identical to the solution set. Okay, so enough said. Okay, I will ask you, though, even though enough has been said, to sign a little oath or affirmation on your problem sets that the work that you're turning in is, in fact, your work and not somebody else's work. This is where we caught them last time. Nobody ever admitted that they did it incorrectly, but it did go to, what's it called now, Student Judicial Affairs. I don't know. It's an ongoing investigation. Okay, so let's not have those issues go around. Okay, so our first 2 exams, of course, will be done in class, so you'll have an hour and 20 minutes to take it. I can tell you right now exactly what the format of the exam is. It will have 10 multiple choice questions and 2 free response questions. So any of you who've had a class with me before knows that's the way my exams always look. Our final exam will be on Friday, December 17th, from 7 to 10 p.m. Yes, the very last exam on campus. Yes, yes, we get to close the place down. I'm very excited about that. Not. Okay, so if you have a conflict with that final exam date and time, you need to drop the class and take it some other semester. I have to be here. You have to be here. I'm sorry that it's the very last exam on campus. It doesn't chill me any either, but that is the way that the campus has decided to penalize us for having the best class on campus. Okay, so exams themselves we'll cover the material for that section. including the exam, or including the lecture right before the exam. So right up to that period. As I said, the first two exams will be on Tuesdays, so that means it'll include the lectures from the previous Thursdays. The exams will not be cumulative, at least not intentionally, but like you've discovered in economics, it's all cumulative, right? I mean, it's knowledge that builds on top of knowledge that builds on top of knowledge. So I can't say that, but the details of the questions will get less and less specific as we move through the course of the semester. For the exams, all exams are closed book and closed notes, so I want to see if you actually remember the stuff and you can actually apply it to a problem that you have not seen before. I will give you an exam packet. It'll probably be 14, 16, 18 pages or something like that. Don't panic. There are blank pages in there for scratch paper. In case you mess up on one of your diagrams, we've got paper right there for you to do it. So everything is self-contained in that packet. You do not need to bring blue books or scratch paper or cheat sheets or notebooks or anything else except whatever it is that you need to write with. Everything else will be contained in the exam packet itself. No electronic devices will be either needed nor allowed, with the exception of language translators, which you must show me before the exam begins so that I know that it does not have a memory card in it. I had an incident about 5 years ago where a student showed me their language translator, and I turned it on, and whoop, there were my lecture notes in his language translator, the entire semester's worth of lecture notes. Now, of course, I should have let him use it because there was no way he'd be able to find the right material in the lecture notes and still be able to write the exam in time and still finish in 80 minutes, but I had to report him. Okay, so you will need colored pens and pencils. Some people like to use a straight edge because it just helps draw straight lines faster. Okay, there's also an affirmation on the test. This is a class in international trade. However, during exams, we allow neither importing nor exporting of answers. Okay? Neither importing nor exporting of answers to your near neighbors or even your far neighbors. So, no scheduled makeup exam, so I know occasionally somebody gets arrested right before the exam, taken to the hospital, whatever the issue may be. You probably want to send me an email or give me a call. Of course, you don't have my phone number, so that won't work. I have no phone in my office, so calling me there wouldn't do any good anyway. But you will want to send me an email message very quickly and, documentation afterwards, blah, 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 blah. All graded materials will be handed back in discussion section as soon as they're graded. I've already met with the GSIs, and they promise 24-hour turnaround time on the multiple choice questions. Okay, what do we have here? Okay, regrade requests. Okay, you've probably been through this. Here's my policy. If the GSIs can't add, you can point that out to them, and they will fix it right away. I actually had a student this summer who pointed out that the GSI couldn't add, and it was painful, but we had to take 4 points away from her because we'd given her 95 points rather than the 91 that it actually totaled up to. So don't see that very often. But if there's an additional mistake, just point it out to your GSI. They can fix it on the spot. If it's a grading error, you disagree with what the number of points that the GSI has taken off. This is the procedure, and it's laid out in the syllabus in much more detail. You need to write me a note, and write means word processed, because some of you, I'm sorry to say, have terrible, terrible handwriting. And it's easy for me to say because in a previous life I was a physician, and wait till you see my handwriting when it shows up on the screen. I wasn't really a physician, but my handwriting's that bad. Okay, so you need to word process me a request, return it with your exam with no changes on your exam back to me within 1 week of the time the exams were returned in your discussion section. Now remember, we only meet once a week in discussion section, so if you're not there when the exams were returned, the clock is still ticking, which means you better go find your GSI and get your exam if you're going to do this. So that comes to me, I review it, I give it back to your GSI, who reserves the right to grade only what you ask or the entire exam, both of the free response questions. You can get more points. It's also been known for students to get fewer points. So there's no free option here. Please do not ask for a regrade request of 3 points or less. It just won't make a difference in the final analysis. DSP, if you get accommodations, you need to talk to me at some time between now and the 9th of September, which is what, 2 weeks, just so I know. I don't need all the documentation yet, but just so I know, and we can start to make arrangements. Course letter grades. Let me say on course letter grades, I never, ever, ever think about course letter grades until I have all the scores in. All your problem sets in all 3 exams, which means I will never be able to tell you whether you're getting an A, B, or C before probably the 27th or 8th of December. Okay? So, however, you can think about it this way. 5 highest problem sets count for 25%. Exam 1, 25%. Exam 2, 25%. Exam 3, 25%. If I did my addition right, that's 100%. So you can calculate your weighted average grade. Right? So you can figure out where you are. Your GSI is going to tell you what your discussion section means and medians are. You'll know where you are above or below that median. If you want an A, you want to be further above the median than closer to the median, obviously. A's mean superior performance, so you need to be quite high. I do not have a preset or common grading scale. There's no fixed curve. Generally, there is a curve, but it's not predetermined. It depends upon how you perform and how I judge how difficult the exams and problem sets are. But just in general, when I've taught this class in the past, the A's are around, 25 or 30% of the class. About 40 to 50% of the class get a B, and whatever the remainder percentage is gets not an A or a B. Okay, in terms of reading, I've tried to lay out everything in terms of the syllabus, in terms of what chapters we'll be covering when. Again, that's all key to the 8th edition of the textbook, which is also, by the way, the custom edition, if you get that. Did you get the 10% off coupon I sent out this morning? I would have sent it out earlier, except they just sent it to me at 11:35 last night, so I couldn't do that. So I'm going to follow the syllabus. That, in some sense, kind of follows the text, but there's places in the text where I kind of start skipping around because I just don't like the order in which they've done things. As I mentioned earlier, I will not be covering everything that's actually in the textbook. However, I will also be bringing in material that's not in the textbook or material that I think is underrepresented in the textbook. That'll particularly be in the final third of the class. Okay, are there any questions about the syllabus? Course policy? Yes, ma'am. Am I going to put the textbook on reserve?